We'll be speaking to the water department about how to configure the water line here. We know we have a 6-inch coming in the hydrant. This is going to be more than 100 feet away from the building, so we might need another hydrant and where we put our house connection. And then the question is do we want to loop it or loop it this way? Wait for the water department to come up with that decision, but we may need to take, or they may want us to take water off of Herschel. So that's something we need to discuss with the different utilities. We do have electric right now coming up to a pole here, which I presume fed the old school, and which we would like to maintain and have that feed a transformer, which would feed the building very nicely. As far as some stormwater areas, you've seen a memo, maybe you've seen a memo, where we're within a certain number of years of the old municipal complex being here, that we may be able to use the roof and parking, most of the roof area, the paved areas around the school as our pre-development condition, in which case our post-development condition isn't going to be much different, which would mean that we will have far less stormwater management issues and cost. So it's one place we may be possible to save some money.
That was one of the things that Bill Murray from
Yes.
Places had sent an email about, wanting to know if he could get buy-in from the committee on that concept, because he wanted to make sure that you all felt comfortable with his approaching the planning board with that concept of using the prior building conditions as the pre-development conditions. Are you okay with it, or should he not present it that way to the planning board?
I think it'd be great if we could save money doing it like that, and I'm all for it. I don't know what you guys think.
It'd be one thing if we were on a very tight site and any water was going to directly impact the neighbors. We're on such a large site that any stormwater still has quite a distance to migrate. So the differential probably will not be as great as if we were talking about a very tight site. There's a lot of places for the water to disappear once it leaves the impervious areas.
You need to vote on that, Anita?
Yeah, I think he would feel more comfortable if he knew that the committee was approving it, so I think a formal vote would be good.
Yeah, and I think, if I can interrupt, to my point, responding back to Bill, we've seen the floor plans, the elevations kind of going through a couple, refinements and iterations. You've really only seen this particular site plan
It's really
once, and it was kind of quickly. So my thought was, before we go running off to planning board, let's all buy in that we're okay with this. If for some reason you wanted the building oriented facing a different way, or you didn't like the parking, if there's any major changes, let's go through those now, rather than getting planning board and utility companies thinking one thing and next month, changing. So
this was my first sketch, and it was really a test fit to see how it would fit on the site, how 50 cars would fit, and how we would access all these areas and get the utilities to work out. And as far as the test fit, it works very well, and it could very well be our plan. I've asked Bill, of course, to pull the parking apart, put some more trees and planting in here, and show it and develop it more with more design aspects. So he's working on that now. We do think that if there's any stormwater, there might be a swale here, and there might be something over here to take that. The water drips off in a couple of different directions, so we have some options. I'm not sure how the committee feels, but we were planning to maximize the construction of this building, because it's a one-time thing. We weren't planning on including any repaving or milling of this surface right here. We were pretty much trying to work from here over. And this could be done at any time in any future years. But if this cost detracted from the square footage of this building, we wouldn't necessarily think that would be a good idea. Again, how do you feel about?
First of all, can we just get a vote on that first thing first, about using the stormwater plans from the previous building? Would anybody make a motion?
So moved. Second.
We're not actually using the plan.
Yeah, that's.
No, the stormwater
We
the
would just
pre-development.
we'd just like to use the pre-development
plan.
plan of this. We'd like to use the previous school layout, previous
Okay.
school construction.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
John,
Yep.
I have a comment on that. I was of the impression the whole building was going to be pushed further to the right on that sheet and possibly up some. In light of this conversation, these comments I've heard right now, I suspect that that is probably an abandoned option.
Well, what we're trying to do is maintain some area on this side, short of the slope, for some recreational area for the seniors. So we were figuring that this would be an area for some outdoor recreation, and we've got plenty of space across here, and there's a little bit of ability from this position to actually still see down and get a little bit of a view into the field. If you pull it back much further, you wouldn't have that. You'd have more space here, but you wouldn't have much on this side for any type of passive or active recreation.
I got here a couple of minutes late, and I probably there was some conversation, Tony, about that outcropping of ledge there, and how is that going to be impacting on this location vis-a-vis another location?
That mostly the outcrop, there's kind of a plateau up here raised up. Yes, yeah, 530, 535. So this is the high point, 536. Right in here you had maybe a foot to 2 feet of soil before you hit ledge. It was very up near the surface. There were some other little outcrops, and then, 3 to 5 feet down around this area, less over here. And I think if you were to do anything in here, this has all been dug out and sub-base as pavement. And then in the footprint of the old building, we just had general granular fill, so bouldery, kind of heavy rock, 6-inch plus, stones and backfill.
So
As long as you're not digging anything in that, what you're pointing to as the potential recreation area,
Yeah,
it's all ledge.
and we wouldn't be putting any retention in the ledge either. So
We voted.
so we have to be careful with the retention. So that's another good reason to do the pre-development in favor of the original school site, because if the rock is that high, there's not a lot of opportunity to create any stormwater basins, at least any with any depth, which means they have to be very, very broad.
John, back to your point about the driveway. You were saying that you were concerned that the cost of milling and repaving the driveway would take away funds from the building.
Well, it will, yes,
So could that possibly be another ad alternate that we
Of course.
consider?
of course.
And is that the way the committee would like to approach it, or do you want to just have it automatically included in the project scope?
I mean, it would be too bad to have this nice new building in that crappy driveway, so I think we need to do something. If the DPW can do it, I don't know how bad it looks now. I think Tony might have something to say.
At this early schematic level, until we start really seeing a full detailed estimate on what it's cost, I wouldn't vote for something in or out. Understand that it is a cost, but when you see a fully broken down estimate of paved areas, parking areas, we can break that out in an estimate, and then you can decide from there. I don't think that needs to be
It
decided
could be a
tonight.
perspective alternate until we have better budget numbers.
Yeah,
better
that's-
cost numbers.
That's good. Just I think I don't know how bad it looks now, but I know it did look bad years ago, so can't imagine it's much better.
It's broke out.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Right, but it isn't taking heavy traffic now. It probably won't take much more than normal residential traffic, normal vehicular traffic in the future, and you could do that under a town contract, which most towns have paving contracts, open contracts, that even if the price came in, whatever the price comes in at, you might have an open contract for a better cost and be able to do it more efficiently,
I think
cheaper.
we should lean towards doing it, but let's wait till we get the numbers.
John, the ledge, as far as, we talk about pinning it or digging out, stuff like that, is it shale ledge, or do you know? Is it,
I don't know.
okay.
We don't know how integral the top of the ledge is, whether it's something that would want to come out or not. It's, we need some advice from the geotech, and then the question is whether or not the structural engineer would like to bear half the building on ledge and half the building maybe on soil. That gives you a problem where you're going to see some settlement, some differential settlement, which is troublesome in a wood frame building, which you run.
And to your other point of bringing gas in, if there's gas in Prescott Street, and we're gonna redo that loop road,
They just brought gas up on that street last year, or the year before.
Terrific.
so if that exists, I would think the better excavation route is within that loop, which is probably a couple of feet of gravel.
Sewer's got to come out this way anyway. So we are going to do that. We may have to loop the water, in which case the gas can come into water, so we have options. Obviously, this is shorter, so we prefer to do that.
But there's no storage on Prescott Street.
Not
So
that we're aware of.
so storage has to be the other way.
Hate to be chipping a trench through ledge just to get sewerage out there.
So no sewer, no water on the Shady Lane?
There's water on Prescott Street.
No.
Shady Lane.
Shady
No sewer, but there is water.
Oh, well, we have no easement across here.
There was, those were all houses. I thought there is some easement on the Shady Lane.
Oh,
Not that way, it
No, no,
comes
no.
from Horseshoe Drive,
There's an
Right
easement
there.
coming here.
from Horseshoe Drive.
Horseshoe.
Okay.
Did you want to finish the vote? I don't know if you took the vote.
We did.
Did we take the vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, you did.
Yeah, we voted on it.
There's a motion and a second.
I didn't think we
Ian
did.
voted.
We voted.
Yep.
Whatever,
It was
vote
voted,
again.
it was approved, unanimous.
So one of the emails you sent me was, where are we on kind of a schematic design approval for you to be going full-fledged? And I'm guessing this is your package tonight for schematic design. The building isn't going to change drastically as we move forward.
No, hopefully it doesn't.
And Tony, we're essentially making the same commitment now on the siding of the building.
Yeah, it sounds like this
It's still.
site's going to get refined, some planting, some green space, but
Yeah, things in here could move 5, 10, 15, 20 feet, depending upon what we find is optimal for reducing cost, utilities, or other grading, amount of land we need for stormwater. So this is basically just the orientation and general location, but this is subject to some further design, and those design changes would principally be there to facilitate construction and to reduce costs if possible.
Well, you can't go too much further back in, because there's some wetlands
Well, there's no wetlands
on
designated
the,
right
on the
now,
back.
yeah.
On the back, isn't it?
Right here?
Yeah.
Well, actually, in talking to Bill, he has reviewed this area, and he will be making a pitch to the Conservation Commission that this is not a designated wetlands or PDH or PDW. So this, if he's successful, and he has reasons to believe he will be, this might be damp, but it's not qualified as a wetland.
Okay, good.
so at this point also, you're not turning the building anymore to orientate sun, walking trails,
This is optimal if you want the solar, the future solar, this is obviously optimal. I believe from the point of view of approach, it's ideal. From approach of coming into the building and keeping the warm side in the wintertime on the front entrance, this is optimal. I think as far as it's grid off of this wall, and basically it's coming in the same fashion as the old school, which this was designed to do, and it has good views into and out of the building, so I don't see any reason to change it. We discussed flipping it around a little bit, so the great room was on this side and everything else was like that, but Lisa and others didn't like that orientation, so this orientation is fine.
Great.
So with a vote of, the proposed site plan, building elevations, and floor plan as they are today, you're ready to move into design development and start really putting mechanics and structure into the
Of
facility.
course, we've already started, but yes.
Just trying to get
Got it done.
the vote. Get up and get the vote, right?
Part of that, and I do apologize, but nobody took I did have a rough estimate, and I hope you brought the copy.
I don't have a clean copy. It's left at the office, I guess.
Sean Hadley, is there a motion in the second?
Do we, yeah, we do need a motion if we're gonna situate it right there.
What do you want? You want to base all these plans, Tony? You want a motion on all of these plans? Right, that we
Direct
just,
the architect to proceed from schematic design into design development.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. Tony is copying the estimate, just finished it this afternoon. Lots of discussion with our cost estimator. So we were using information from our cost for the public state, for the police, and his experience, his professional experience doing cost estimate. He is probably the most popular cost estimator in Massachusetts and has done most of John Catlin's senior centers, so he knows what senior centers cost. So and apparently they cost more than a police station. So he's running the numbers, and I'll review them when they come in. And then we can,
All right, so
Discuss.
unfortunately, this is not a clean copy either, because when you send me stuff, I write all over it. Luckily, it doesn't say anything
Anything
that
bad?
anybody can't read.
I presume there's some nice clean copies sitting on my copier somewhere.
John, why would, cost more than a police station, when a police station has all the specialty things?
I don't really have a good answer for that, other than in the experience of this professional estimator. He knows what John Catlin's buildings are worth, and he's done lots of other similar types of buildings.
Thank you.
And I believe for an early budget, before he has finished plans to estimate, and he can say there's, 3,000 square feet of drywall, and there's this much board feet of lumber, before he can do all that, he's taken some broad square foot numbers and applying them. And they're meant to be, in my opinion, they're meant to be fat. Because you don't want to go backwards. Once we put this number out there, it gets pinned to the wall, and then everything is judged from there. And I'm letting you know it shouldn't be, because this is not based upon any qualified takeoff. This is based upon
Yep.
similar buildings, similar costs, extrapolating costs in next year. So, what this estimate is in front of you, and comparing to Tony's budget, which I got here somewhere. Right. I'm used to reading this. Same numbers?
Let's hope. Could be.
So basically, the way this shakes out, and understand that the site work for this building will be a little bit more, actually, than the police. There's more site, there's more parking area. You have to go farther to get the utilities. There's a little bit of rock. So the site costs for this project, we anticipate to be higher than the police. When I broke out the police site cost, and I included the first change order that brought back the utilities under the contractor, it came out to about $580, $590. That was the cost for the police. This one, we estimate about $650. We've got more pavement, because we have more parking on this site, and we have to go a little bit farther out for utilities. And then we added a small, and maybe, depending on how much rock, we'll have a unit price for some rock excavation. The other parts of the project, we have the building, we have the porch, and we have the utility mezzanine. Those are smaller numbers, basically the bulk of the building, the bulk of the cost is in the building. Obviously, this is a really rough budget. We don't have, as I said, finished drawings to estimate from and do a quantity takeoff. So typically at this phase, there's at least a 10, sometimes 20% contingency. We're just leaving it at 10%. On top of the square foot cost for the building, or the general cost of the building, we have general conditions, general requirements, overhead and profit. All of you who have been working on the police project know all about those things nowadays. And we're escalating the project to basically 1 year from now. We're assuming if we go out to bid in December and January, and we're figuring maybe this is a 14-month project, 7 months down, basically starting in March, we'll give you about September of 2018 for the midpoint. Which is fine, because you'll be inside during the winter. And then so at the end of that, at the end of item 3C, it gives you a number of 4.38 million. And that is what we think would be, that's the point before construction change contingency, which would be the amount we would estimate a bid to be, or might be at that point. So that 4.38 compares to the budget we have right now of 4.2. So it's about 108, well, really about 180. Right now, we're about 180 over budget. We're using a 6% construction change order contingency, which we feel is appropriate for new construction. Tony used a little bit more. I don't know, was that all in your line item here? Was contingencies for construction, was that just for construction changes and stuff like that? Okay. So you had used the 9%.
Yep.
So using your 9%, adding it to your budget, and comparing it to our lower 6%, at the end, on our item number 4, our 4.6 is actually only $80,000 over budget, which is very close with this very, very rough estimate. When we start to get better numbers, when we start to do our quality takeoff, this may, and I suspect will change. Hopefully it will change. It will go lower. Hopefully it won't go any better. So right now, we are sitting very close to budget. We're just a little bit over. This amount of difference is manageable. But the caveat to that is until we find ways, or until we have actual numbers that show some reduced cost, on the second page, you will see the alternates. And right now, those alternates are not in the budget yet. They're not they're not above the line, so to speak.
Can I just interject? We're not over budget. We have an estimate. We're over the original estimate, so I think we should get away from saying we're over budget, because we don't have a budget. We purposely bid this, the way we're bidding this, so we can say this is what it's gonna cost to build this building. So I know it's semantics, but if you could say over the estimate versus over budget, because that's what it is. We don't actually have a budget yet.
True.
So we have to add the 1.1 million into this from the first town meeting vote.
Just for a total project cost.
This is including that.
It has really nothing to do with that.
This is in addition to the...
Addition to, right.
Yes.
So we were figuring, we told people 5.5, isn't that what isn't that the number?
5.4.
Yeah,
We were looking at a total project
6.5.
cost of 6.5.
oh, 6.5.
And
So
you wanted
this
to
is at-
artificially bring it down.
So this is at 5.7, correct? This is at 5.7.
Yeah, this is at the lower figure.
So when you've digested this and you want to look at this page, that's where we can talk about 6.5, 5.5, $1 million that we're going to come in under the original Catlin.
Estimate.
This is the original one from Catlin, right? This is one from Catlin.
So in this form here, what I tried to do was go back to the original Catlin estimate, then you asked me to evaluate Catlin's estimate, what might be in, what other costs might not be included in Catlin's. So that's the 10,300 cardinal cost. And then the kind of center column, West Boylston Senior Center at 11,000 square feet at $363. That's when we knew what the projection was coming in from the police station, used some of those costs, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and kind of reevaluated where the senior center would be. In the two blue columns over on the right-hand side, I've taken John's numbers for 12,044 square foot senior center. The 4,374,000 is his 4,382,000 plus your add alternates. So assuming that we want to not be holding those things out right now because we don't have a solid estimate, if you add in the carport, the portico, the cupola, and redoing the paved loop, that brings you to 4,374,500. I then said, okay, when we're schematically estimating a project, I carry 10%. By the time we are at this stage, we're reducing it to 6%. By the time we go to bid, and we know John and his firm have done a really good job in managing change orders and putting together a set of documents that aren't filled with holes, you know, at the time we may go to 3% or 5% contingency, which would be normal for a new construction project. And then there's some other numbers in there. So I put in the actual number of the Keola Bienic design fee at $357. I put in the actual number of $9,813 for survey and $8,700 for our geotechnical borings. So now you're starting to see variances against what our estimate was and where that takes us. So if you look at that total column today and say, okay, John's schematic kind of assessment of reasonable cost plus what we know today, we're at 5.6 versus looking way back at 6.1 or 6.3.
5.6 include all the alternates?
5.6 would include all the alternates, and that sets us about 150,000 over what our previous estimate, 160,000 over what our previous estimate or budget was.
John, on the police station, we held about 1% in the contingency at the end.
I would think we're pretty close to one.
You know, I guess what I would say to that, and I was thinking as
Well, that
John was
first
saying
one
that,
was huge.
the first ones were huge because we had held out all that work
Right.
the town DPW would do, and then we added back in the water line and all that. I think we're gonna approach this differently from the beginning and just include that work in the bid.
Okay.
But I can get you what that number is without that big change, or I'll get you that percentage plus the percentage without the added owner work that was held out, so that you can see what of the change order percentage is attributed to the documents, to owner requested change orders and contractor claims.
In the hardest of all cases, with the alternates that were considered, the alternates I had listed here, which was the drive-through portico, the cupola light well, and the paving of the front area. The first two are part of the construction and will probably have to be known early. But the nice thing about the paving is you're not going to you're going to do the paving of this project until the very, very end. So you would have until the entire project to know where the contingency is. And if enough money were still available in contingency, you could add that by change order to the paving that's part of the parking lot pavement.
I can't see spending $6 million on a building and leaving a crappy parking lot. That's not, that shouldn't even be a change order, that should be included in the base bid.
Yeah, if I were to do this and these numbers proved out, it would mean that we would have to reduce square footage from the building or something like that. And I'm not sure that's.
The only thing you missed about that, because he said, we can maybe get outside, town pavers to do it, can do it on their contract cheaper.
Got it, okay.
So we said that.
Most towns have outside contracts for paving that can be at times, depending on when you bid your paving contracts, less than what we're buying it for today.
I mean, we just did that contract and it was $51 a ton. It was fantastic.
That's a low number.
Well, that might be less than 90, what do we have in here for mill and resurface?
45,000.
45. Does that make, that, I apologize.
Seems low.
That number's not the number I wrote. I had 90,000. I don't know how it turned out to 45.6, but it was supposed to be 90. You want to pencil that in? So our estimate was close.
No, I like 45. Stick
But I
with
don't know why
45.
that.
But again, I don't think anybody's, to Pat's point, or earlier of the budget, I don't think anybody's asking you to go back and reduce square footage right now, so, you know.
We're gonna stay at the 10,217 or 271, is that what it was?
10, 2, 17 or something like that. Totally.
I see that 12,044.
That includes the porch and everything?
Yeah, that's if you take the 10,217, 1257, and you have 700, but your sheet here had 570.
791 is the portico. So it came to 12,265. What is that number you got?
It doesn't come up like.
No, I use these numbers for your square footages.
Yeah,
I use two different budgets, you use two different square footages.
Is the
That's not
portico,
confusing at all.
is the portico,
Which shell has the P under
No,
it?
this is true, 1257. The 5.7 utility mezzanine is not shown in here because it wasn't on there.
is the,
At this point, it's all gray matter and what we call lost in the noise. Until an estimator goes through and says there's X amount of square feet, there's X amount of doors, there's X amount of wall space, there's linear feet of concrete. All these numbers are within a 15% error margin,
Yeah.
and you cannot pin it down.
This just sort of gives you an order of magnitude that we are sitting very close to budget. Not budget, we're sitting very close.
estimate?
I mean, it's,
That we are,
You're absolutely right.
we are right on point, tracking well under the $6 million number.
Oh, yes.
How's that?
Good. And I'm sure the people will be glad to hear that. I think so.
When it's final, I'll be really good.
All right, anything else, John?
That's it.
Thank you so much. Other senior center police upstate,
Tours and dedication.
the open house is, it's gonna be at least a week further than we had hoped for the 14th. That's not gonna happen on the 14th.
Okay.
So,
Do you agree?
Yes, we already
It's your
discussed.
call. Yes, I agree. I like things to be unanimous. I agree. I concur.
But do you feel it's not gonna be done for the 14th?
No.
So,
so tentatively, we're gonna try the 21st, and then we'll know better as next week progresses.
I'm pretty confident that the 21st is a very solid number.
what time? You
We're
know,
gonna try to do the open house, we're gonna try to do for 11, right? Yeah.
So,
And then we're still gonna do a walkthrough for the Fisp committee, before that. And, maybe we can determine that Monday at the meeting and
Okay.
send out an email from there. We'll see how everything looks then,
Yep.
all right?
We are planning to have a professional photographer take pictures of the building, interior and outside. And we think that it's going to be probably a rush for open house, but the Monday after the open house, I don't think you'll be moving in, or maybe you will be the following Monday.
Could be.
But we'd like to take some, we'd like to take. All right,
Chief
well,
says different.
You want the furniture.
Yeah.
yeah, we like it before you put your crap in there. So, if that's not possible, then we can try for Friday or early morning
make it all happen.
Saturday. Okay, we will share our photographs with you, obviously, so you'll have some.
And I've got to schedule somewhere in between that, the banner folks who want to get in and take pictures and right in our.
They're behind you.
Oh, hi.
So for the open house, there's not going to be your equipment and,
Furniture and fixtures will be in.
okay,
But-
but not all the
Personal-
other
personal-
private?
No,
Personal items
no,
and things
yeah,
like
No
that.
just
evidence.
an empty building.
No,
No
there'll be
evidence.
furniture desks.
Furniture, but people can see every room without worrying
Right,
about
exactly.
getting in the way of something.
All right, we do have one invoice, C and B.
Actually, the few for you.
Oh, we do? I'm sorry. I have one, from number 5611 for $24,275. Tony, what's that for? That's the,
Schematic design for the senior center.
So we have a motion.
So moved, yeah.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
What else you have?
Then we have Cromac Industries, is this,
Oh,
so we have a bill for $5,907.16. And this one, we're not sure whether it's actually going to get applied to the construction budget or not, but I'd like the board to approve it going toward the budget, just in case it needs to. The chief was looking to see if he could possibly take it from one of the other funding sources he has for the communications. But if you could at least vote to approve taking it from the budget, and then if we have to, we're all set.
What is it for?
it's for connection of the fiber
Fiber optics.
to get back to Holden Regional. Right now, it was included, you had made that commitment under the police station budget. So if the chief is able to pay that out of some other technology funds, then we would reduce the current police station budget by that amount.
Is there
Make a
any,
motion, we approve it pending the chief not having funding.
I'll second, but is there anything that prevents us from putting it in the construction budget versus, I know we had budgeted it legally, that would, because it's fiber to the next town over, it's not really part of the construction. Is there Anita, is there anything
I
that
think,
would preclude us?
I think we planned on it in the construction.
It is already- planned.
It's part of it.
Okay.
It's already taken out of the budget. If he can pay for it somewhere else, then it will come back to you as a credit.
Anita, how much was it again?
$5,907.16.
You made a motion?
I did.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business?
I just
Yeah.
want
Okay.
to make a point that we did get the invoice from the municipal light plant for the fiber that they installed at no cost to us, and that amount was $31,407.72, but that the chief is certain that he can have, be paid out of that other line.
So do we need to vote on that? No, we're
I
all
just
set.
wanted to update the board because we had talked about that at the last meeting and we didn't know where
Okay.
that stood.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's been any thought given to a presentation, something like a status report on the senior center at the October town meeting.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Under,
When we do reports,
under
Yeah,
Article
we
one.
will do something. Yeah, you can do it.
With a little bit of sizzle,
We'll work it out.
some pictures.
Yeah. All right.
One more question. Was that 31 originally included in the construction budget for the fiber, or was that outside of the construction
That
budget?
was outside of
It
the
was
budget.
outside.
Thanks.
Motion? To adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.